Ryan Dunn, Orange County chapter, founder member. Basically just a member now. I give any suggestions and help to anybody that needs it. I do side work on Cadillacs as well for the club. About 15 years. Well, when we first started the Orange County chapter, the only chapters that were happening was the LA chapter and then the IE chapter, and then the Orange County chapter and the IE chapter kind of came on board at the same time. And back then there was no Cadillac clubs. It was a lot of lowrider clubs, rockabilly clubs, stuff like that, but there was no dedicated Cadillac club back then. And so when I actually came across the website, 15 years ago, so it was just a one-page website, and the meeting was at a Shakey's off of Whittier Boulevard. And the first time I rolled up, it was a sight to see all these Cadillacs, because I've always had a passion for Cadillacs. I've been working on them for 27 years now. My first Cadillac was a 1976 Coupe de Ville that I bought for $80. And ever since then, I've been hooked. I've had probably 10 or 11 Cadillacs since then. Well, lots of fond memories. The best was we used to have a spot right on Main Street, Huntington Beach. And it was the only parking spot that would fit a whole bunch of cars, and the amount of foot traffic that we would get. The fondest memories, though, is bringing out the barbecues, barbecuing, and just being able to do that in middle of Main Street, Huntington Beach. And then I would say the most fondest is when we had a mandatory meeting for a cruise, and we ended up having, I think, 39 Cadillacs cruise down Main Street and do that meeting. The parking lot was full. It was a sight to be seen. This one. I've wanted this car for 10 years, and I finally found it.
How did you find it?
Basically, we had a meeting in Orange, and this guy came over on a scooter, and he said his older roommate has a couple of 58 Cadillacs, and we're like, okay, cool. So he said, do we want to come see him? And we're like, sure. So we go down there, and there was a 58 Coupe de Ville with 62 or 67,000 miles on it, aqua blue. And then there was this sitting in the garage. And once I saw this, I was ready to trade in my 61 Cadillac right then and there, but he was a 58 Cadillac man. And when I saw this and I saw the interior, I was like, this is the car I've been looking for forever. I have actually a original ad that's been blown up to poster size that's over my fireplace of this car, and ever since then I've just wanted it. Well, it's kind of strange because coming from a Lincoln family, they were all Ford people. I kind of steered out of that, but my first real memory in a Cadillac is when I was 14 and my friend's dad had a 71 or 70, it was a 71 Coupe de Ville, black on black, and I rode in the front seat, and after that I was hooked. If gas ran out, yes, because I still want to drive it, but I would actually probably convert it to propane or something before I do that. Because there's nothing like the sound of a Cadillac V8. There's nothing like it. And I'm so good at, knowing Cadillacs now that I know what year is being started up when I hear it start up. I don't even have to see it. Yeah, there was a lot of meetings that didn't happen, that were canceled, especially really in the thick of it. I think March, April, stuff like that. I was more absent because of it. So, I keep tabs on everything. But after about, I can't even remember, maybe 5 or 6 months, we did social distancing, and, we'd still go on cruises. That's the main thing. If you're in your car cruising, you're not around anybody. So at least the cruising was still happening, but not so much meeting in restaurants or, actual car shows and whatnot. So, but at least, you could go on cruisings and just hang out that way. So it was horrible, but, you got to do what you got to do. What I see in our chapter, I would say after COVID especially, that there's going to be more flux of people joining and coming back in. A lot of people are older members. They have been absent. So I definitely see that happening in the next year. I'm hoping that, there's still more growth. But I know as a club as a whole, it's just going to keep getting bigger. When I joined, 15 years ago, let's say even 10 years ago, I would have never imagined how big this club got. I mean, it's global. And I honestly never imagined that ever. I really didn't. And now I see all the Facebook pages, the websites, the shirts. You know, I could have never imagined it would get that big. Never, never. It's as the biggest Cadillac club in the world. I don't think there should ever be a cap. If there was a chapter in every country of the world, I would sure be happy about that.
All right.
So 15 years ago, it wasn't so much, but I would say probably about 12 years ago, after people started hearing about the Cadillac Kings, there was other people that used our name, used our logo without any permission. Some of them had like 80s Cadillacs, which we were always pre-76. So there was a couple times that we actually had to send emails. You know, it didn't get official because, you know, when you use a logo from a car, you can't necessarily claim it. So, you know, it was kind of, we couldn't get a lawyer involved and all that, but we would ask nicely, and usually it would be a compliance. Now I don't think that is an issue at all, because we're such a big club now, and we have chapters all over the place, so they will get called out. But yeah, about 10 years ago, it was a real struggle. Yeah, I do remember that, and you know, it's kind of strange, especially because I was a chapter head for a while, and you know, everybody had to get approved to be, you know, to start a chapter, and sometimes, yeah, they just pop up, and I'd hear about it, and I'm like, oh, okay. But especially lately, in probably the last 5 years or so, I just find out about these chapters popping up. I'm not a chapter head anymore, so I'm not in those emails. But I mean, at one point I was just amazed when I heard about London and Australia and, you know, the East Coast. And, you know, I'm like, I couldn't believe it. But, you know, there was always a minimum to start a chapter. And sometimes chapters didn't always end up working out because, you know, if they only had like 3 or 4 cars and a couple people went and did their own thing, well, then you're not a chapter anymore. So, you know, it's kind of a roller coaster depending on the area where you're at. Well, the only problem that I've really had is some of these chapters have newer Cadillacs in them. And that wasn't the actual thing that we were about. It was always, you know, at one point, I think it was pre-72 or something like that. It was the early 70s, and now it's gone to pre-76. But there is a couple chapters that have 80s, late 70s Cadillacs in them. I mean, to me, that wasn't what we were about. We weren't really into lowriders. We were into, you know, just Cadillacs, you know, and so I don't know. I don't hear it as much anymore, but if that is happening, then I would say it got a little more lax, you know, because that was a thing that wasn't supposed to happen. Even when I was president for over 5 years, I was really strict on nothing newer than 1976, and that was the cap.
From where you guys have?
Yeah, from our Orange County chapter, our cap was 76, and that's what we stuck with. Some people actually wanted it lower than 76, and I was like, well, you know, there's a couple nice 73s that come up if they're nice, you know. But yeah, I've seen some pictures on Facebook and whatnot of other chapters. They have, you know, they're newer Cadillacs, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with them. I love all Cadillacs.
Now, when you say newer, let everyone on this side know, like, you're not talking, you know. Yeah,
I'm not talking like 2000 or something like that. But like early 80s, you know, late 70s. And like I said, I don't have a problem. I mean, I own newer Cadillacs too. But that's where I think it got a little lax, was just because of that. Everything else seems pretty straightforward. Merch, the logo and everything, that's kind of gotten tweaked and tossed around a little bit too, which was when we first started, which was a big no-no. There was one logo, that's it. So, and if you, yeah, and if you weren't a member, you could not have a Cadillac King shirt. Then we came out with Cadillac King supporter shirts, and it said supporter on them, and that's cool. So, but I haven't been paying as much attention probably in the last 2 or 3 years. But you know, it's the Cadillac King logo is still there. But I don't know if anybody that's not a member is wearing them. I don't know. I'm not paying attention because I don't really know if the other chapters. I don't know who the chapter heads are, or who's the president, vice president. So I don't know. But I would say it's still kind of strict. but definitely not as strict as it was 10 years ago. Well, the thing is when I was president, Facebook was around. Obviously, Instagram wasn't, Twitter wasn't. We did have a website and an email. We always had, for at least our chapter, we always had an email that went out every month with the minutes. And that's even how our older members that don't really get on social media, that's how they actually got their information. We also had a very long logbook of name, Cadillac, phone number, and even back in the day, we would have to make phone calls, and Bruce would do that. So I'm kind of used to it because we've been doing it that way for a while. So, but I mean, it's a lot easier now. I'll tell you that. You know, actually meeting people on Facebook that are Cadillac members now, and you know, getting to know them, get to know their cars, which is kind of cool. There was a newer member a couple days ago. He was looking for advice, game advice, kind of figured that out. I've always been the guy that helps people out with their Cadillacs, so you know, that's always nice to do.
I believe it's an acquired taste also.
Yes, yes, and you got to have pockets. But anyway, well, to me, it is dying. It's I really don't see younger kids getting into it. We have members that bring their family and whatnot. The kids love them and everything, but I really don't see, even in just classic cars in general, I don't see that many kids getting into it, at least in Southern California. I know in the Midwest, there's a lot of kids that are into more classic cars that, you know, that's their hobby. Their dads are teaching them. Southern California, not so much. Which is sad because Southern California was the birthplace of the hot rod. It's classic car everywhere. It's nostalgia here in you know, LA and whatnot. But yeah, I really don't see any younger members, and I get afraid that our generation is probably going to be the last generation that's really into preserving cars and restoring them, because a lot of these kids now, they're into new Hellcats, and they're doing the donuts in the intersections and jacking up the cars, and they don't care. You know, they just disposable money. I don't get it. I mean, so yeah, all in all, I really think that it is going to die, but I think in certain areas. Like I said, the Midwest, a lot of these kids working on cars with their dads, they're building dragsters and whatnot, and that's cool. I like that, but where it started here, it's just I don't think it's going to last that long. I think what held the Cadillac Kings together for so long was the kind of people that we let into our club. They did become friends and family, obviously, but there was also the passion of Cadillacs. Cadillac is an acquired taste, you know, it is. And to meet fellow people that are into the same thing as you, you just kind of hold on to those people because it's a rarity, you know. So I would say, obviously, besides, you know, becoming family and whatnot, it's the passion of the car. You know, the help with the car. There's always members willing to help, answer questions, you know. So I think that's a pretty tight bond for the Cadillac Kings. So, and what was the second question? At the end of the day,
like you're 20 years down the line and it's done. Like you're like, you know what? My wheels have fallen off. You know what? This literally was, you know, some people can say it was part of my life.
Yeah. To me, it was the gained friendships, gained family. I mean, there's a lot of members that have become really good friends that I could stay at their house if I wanted to. Bruce and I became really good friends. We're the same kind of people, you know. And, you know, that's one thing that I really loved about the club is that everybody becomes friends. Even if they sell their car, if they sell their Cadillac, we stay friends, you know. It's just like-minded people that have a passion, and you can share, you know, stories and you know, joke around. We got a lot of smart asses in the club, you know. We crack jokes, we make fun of each other, and that's, you know, today that's actually a kind of a rarity because there's, you know, a lot of sensitive people around, but you know, it's fun. It's fun to be able to really be yourself around other members.